The PTS is updated with 5 more levels, as well as Sorkin Assassin styles. That and more coming up on this episode of the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 397. And playing alongside me is Seema. Hi Seema, how's it going?
Hey Max, going really well. Yeah, so I have this new thing. I got a new bee in my bonnet this week, which was I decided that I wanted to try and get all 8 classes to 100 renown. And I know a lot of people have already, I know a lot of people already have this because they play, in a more even they may not have 7 Sorks. They might have 8 characters that they played through the story and all this stuff. Anyway, so I made a little spreadsheet that shows how many levels I have to get each week to make it to 100 by the end of November or the beginning of December, because the idea is to do it before 7.0, and I don't know when 7.0 is coming, but if I do it by the end of November, I figure I'll be safe. And my poor Sith warrior is renown 30. So that's a lot of renown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like especially with where you've achieved it already on other characters, I feel like the all classes to 100 is pretty achievable. I feel like the one class to 1,000
that would be hard.
Like
my highest is in the 500 somewhere, which is my Merc. But I mean that is point of it too. Like I have take Scoundrel for instance. I have Gunslingers. I have but all of them. If I could add all those together, it would be way over 100. But no. And now I feel like I wasted my time because I didn't focus on one of those and get them to 100. But anyway.
Right.
So that's kind of my new thing and how I'm looking at things when I log in, because I'm thinking I kind of want to get Conquest, but more than that, I want to get a couple renown levels on this character or that character or whatever.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
And there's a pretty good overlap there too, because whatever I would do for Conquest provides renown levels. It's just now, instead of doing it on shadow after shadow after shadow, I'll do on my Guardian and my Shadow and my Sage, like that. So
right. Fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And also, but that for the guild this week. We had another total galactic war week.
We did. We sure did.
It was pretty epic. It was pretty epic. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, because this is the first total galactic war since the change to crafting, which meant that there wasn't sort of conquest points to be had from crafting unlimited. So it's limited to daily, one time daily for most of the crafting things. Yeah. And so we had a lot of people participating and a lot of people just playing the game. And it was pretty close for a while with the guild that was in second place on the planet we were invading, which was Makeb. And yeah, it was a fun week. There was a lot of SWTOR this week too.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So on MFN, we went and did, the first thing we did was Tabor's Courtyard, and then we went and did Veteran Mode KP, which, looking back on it, I'm not sure what we were thinking, but we made it work. Corley was our raid leader for that, and he was awesome at and we had people in the group that had never done operations before, never mind Veteran Mode, and he just did a great job of getting everyone where they needed to go and making things happen. And in 16-man, in Karagas Palace, those big pulls where you can't CC the various things, and we made it through those. And then we got to the droid fight where you have to do the Hanoi puzzle, which in story mode you don't have to do. In better mode you do. So we're like, oh my god, we forgot about that. So some people had to jump into the breach and do the puzzle, and we did run a little bit long, but everyone was up for that. So that started us off on a good week of getting points, and it just kept going from there. It was really awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I have to say about this past week. Now on to you, Max. What's up with you?
All of that. Even with traveling for 2 days last week, which is why we didn't do the podcast. I played a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic last week. I ended up doing over 10 million conquest points across a whole bunch of characters. A lot of it was leveling up characters. I had a couple characters over a couple million each. I think 2 characters were over 2 million. I did 6 characters that I leveled up from level 9 to level like in the 30s, which was fine and fun. I did a lot of it in GSF, so I completed the GSF weekly probably like 3 times, 3 or 4 times across different characters. That's a lot of conquest points for that. So it
It's also a
was
lot of GSF.
it was a grind, and I actually did it across 2 accounts. My daughter's what used to be my daughter's account when we would play together. It was easier just to create a couple characters on that, and then just switch over to. And these were all created months ago, actually. But switch over to that and play those, and I'll probably continue leveling up. In fact, one of them I think is up to like 38 now. Continuing to level that character up, because it's nice to have a second account to like park characters in different places on different planets and not have to have my main account be using up those slots to do that kind of stuff. So it was quite interesting from that perspective. And as we were saying quite a few times, in the immortal words of Blaster from Ravager's Operation, we got us a proper fight.
Yeah.
Quite a few times that. What was Imperial Army? A big shout out to Imperial Army, the guild that was competing with us. They were right there with us the whole time. They were ahead of us at least half the week. We kind of pulled ahead by the weekend. They really put up the points as well. I felt bad by the end because of all the effort
They
that they
did
put
not.
in.
They did not give up.
They did not
Yeah.
till the bitter end, to the point that there was at least 4 or 5 of us, Seema and I included, that were awake at 5. I set my alarm clock for 5:30 a.m.
Yep.
So I could get on in case we had a couple of aces in the hole at the last minute if we needed to pull them out. We've got our secret there is to save up all of those conquest tokens, those renown tokens, that conquest point tokens that you get for like daily login rewards. So we sort of had those in our as the ace in the hole if we needed them. We ended up not. We were ahead by about 9 million points by that point. But we were afraid that they were as conniving as we were, and had the same thoughts in mind.
Same idea, yeah.
Or we're just going to stay up all night with 16 people and fly GSF all night, and you could have gotten 9 million points that way. So 5:30 a.m. when you start alarm clocking video games, it's serious business. So that was that.
So when you start alarm clocking video games, I mean, I've been alarm clocking video games for many years.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking back to my Eve days when it's like a, there's like twice a week you're alarm clocking because the timers get set on, like invading and that kind of thing. And when you're getting up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. twice a week because of game stuff, it gets a little ridiculous.
Yes. So Forrester, are you saying that you ran 60 hammer stations?
No, he's saying that's your strategy that you need to do to get to read the renown goals that you need, I believe.
Oh.
So there you go. He's got it mapped out for you.
Oh, I see. So if I have level 30, if I'm renown level 30 and run 60 hammer stations, that'll do it.
There you go. He'll confirm in the chat room. We'll move on though to the news.
Yeah.
Now an Imperial News Network report.
Fun stuff. What do we got, Seema?
So there's actually going to be a screenshot contest in SWTOR, and it's being sponsored by BioWare. It's called the Best View in SWTOR contest, and basically what they're looking for is I think of it as like a landscape shot, so it wouldn't have any characters in it. It could have NPCs in it, but basically you're looking for what's your favorite view in SWTOR. And they've limited it to 10 planets just because they felt that would make it more manageable, and it's the first time they've ever done anything like this, so this is how they started out. And they picked planets that they thought represented things that had happened over the last 10 years, because this is in celebration of the 10-year anniversary. And the kind of fun part is the winning submissions will be made into decos that people, special vendor that people can then post in their strongholds, which I think I would like to have a few nice landscape paintings to put in my strongholds. So there are some rules. There's a article in the news about it. But the rules are basically don't have your UI showing, don't have your character or anybody else's character showing. Don't modify it with anything. Like don't mess with the lighting, don't Photoshop anything. They just want directly from the game. Nothing from the cinematics. See, I might be missing some stuff, but yeah. And they show an example picture of a shot of the temple on Ossus to give you sort of an idea. But like, what's your favorite place? Go there, take a big, nice aspect picture, send it in. You might win.
The winners get a special version of the deco that will be unique in the game only to them, which will be a gilded, gold framed version of the screenshot that they'll be putting into the game for them, which I thought was a really cool way to make a reward that kind of matters. Something super unique.
Yeah.
As everyone knows, well, as most people know, I have a little bit of a problem with screenshot contests. Brian of the Bad Feeling podcast has run a few screenshot contests in the past. My screenshots will probably end up like this, or like, let's see, we got Foreman Crusher.
No cropping.
No cropping and no people in the game. So you can't have any player characters in the game. So like this one, which is a spectacular one of Gargath, will not work because it has our guildies in the frame next to that incredible boss butt. So the only kind of screenshots I know how to submit to any contest are of boss butts, unfortunately. So I don't think I'm going to win, but
you may not win.
But
I don't think I'm going to win either, because this is definitely not one of my superpowers. But I'm looking forward to what people do submit, because I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Also in the news that we'll be talking about quite a bit tonight, we did have an update to the PTS. So the PTS is updated. There are 2 new additional combat styles, just their style updated, with their 3 disciplines, which are for Sorcerer and Assassin. But then the other interesting part, which we'll touch on a little bit, is you can now go to level 80, and there's new gear associated with that, which is 328 gear that you can take a look at and check out and experience level 80 a little bit. We'll talk about some of the bugs and some of the things that they need to tweak. I don't think all of the experience is really there yet. It's just scratching the surface on some of it. But that is there. It's live on the PTS. Check it out. And then those feedback threads we'll also get into and describe as well. But it just gives you the opportunity to provide the feedback, especially if your main class is a sorcerer or an assassin, or their sister classes on the Republic side, Consular and Shadow. Get on there, test it out, provide the feedback, because there's some definite things that you'll want to experience, and let them know how it feels.
Also, next thing that's new is Kaizyken is now present and selling and working on the fleet all week, so 24/7. His wares update on Tuesdays to coincide with when the guild perks are reset.
Which
is every
cool.
Tuesday at 0 o'clock GMT.
This gets to something we've sort of been speculating on or asking about, especially for the people that want to get ahead or try to complete some of the achievements for collecting the armor sets. We still don't know what's going to happen after 7.0 to some of the existing armor sets. Say you were going to try to get Apex Predator and you've got a couple pieces missing and you're not running Duxon on a regular basis. How are you going to get that? Kaizyken is one way to do that. It's very, very difficult, but the random item that Kaizyken sells can be anything, including those more rare set pieces that only drop in some of that content. The other thing is his pieces that when Apex Predator does come to his inventory, it'll be there all week instead of just on the weekend. That doesn't help you that much because still the inventory still only resets once a week. Will they make it more available and make everything available? So, so people that are trying to get those pieces aren't out of luck, or after 7.0, will all of it still be available somewhere? That remains to be seen, and we will let you know as soon as we find out ourselves. Finally, we did have a mini patch that went in this past week for 6.3.2a, which was mostly some minor bug fixes. The one more major fix is what we just described, which was not major feature, is that Kaizyken was going to be around for permanently. That was the number one update. The rest of everything else is more just bug fixy kind of things that you can check out. It's good to know that we're still getting that kind of stuff updated along the way as we grind towards 7.0. So keep an eye out for those kinds of updates too.
And the last thing from game news is Galactic Season 1 ends on Tuesday at reset. So you have a few more days to finish up.
A few more days, but just a few more days. So get in there. This now provides you the opportunity to be at the end, see what your final readout is on the number of Galactic Season points and levels that you've gotten to. Right. And take advantage of either the credit or the cartel coin buyouts if you wanted to finish
if you were meaning to get close to the end and then buy it out, this weekend is when you should do it.
Now's the time. In guild and community news for Alea Iacta Est at aie-guild.org, we often have on the fourth weekend of the month a monthly epic guild activity. This is run by Marcus of the Bad Feeling podcast, who's one of our officers and one of the leadership team that Seema and I work with for Star Wars: The Old Republic for Alea Iacta Est. Our monthly epic guild activity will be happening this weekend on Saturday. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and come in on Saturday. We've moved those. Marcus wanted to sort of get that, do something a little bit different and move those to Saturday nights instead of Friday nights. It'll be the fourth weekend still. It will be on Saturday. It's going to be mostly focused on some out-of-the-way datacrons and world bosses. It'll be a fun event. Open to anyone on Starforge if you would like to come and join. So it's going to be probably about 8 p.m. Central on Saturday on Starforge. Check in on our guild Discord, say hi in Discord, and we'll include you in on that if you'd like. Our Friday schedules in general, we do still have a couple things going on Fridays, especially the first Friday. So coming up next week, a week from tomorrow, Malung will very likely be still having a First Friday, Flashpoint Friday night. So keep an eye out for that as well. Those are in addition to the other fun things that go on in our guild, like our Mentor Fun Nights on Tuesday nights. I think we had 25, 26. I think we ended up with capping the group at 24, and then we had other people that were just logged on. We've had a lot of people hanging around for those Tuesday night fun nights lately. So that's been really, really cool. It was extra fun because we were doing pictures to celebrate. I didn't show off those pictures. I should show those as well. We're showing off the pictures of us all together for the celebration of our conquest win. So that was fun. I'll show those here in a second as we're going along. We do a lot of fun things on the Tuesday nights and on the Fridays, and we got our ops teams running, aie-guild.org. Check it out. Shout out to the chat room. Bunch of people in there hanging out. Glad to see all of you. Love talking to you guys before and after the show, so we'll catch up with you a little bit after. But right now, we've got some class styles to talk about, and I've been hearing this a lot in the past week, which is related to this class.
Deep in the ancient, monster-infested tomb of Marka Ragnos, there is a holocron filled with dark secrets and encased in a great stone monument.
I leveled up 3 Sorks, I think, in the past week through their class stories on Korriban there, where that voiceover happens. I mostly spacebarred through it, but I listened to it at least once. From Overseer Harkin, is that his name? Yeah, I think that's his name.
Yes.
Slave.
Shut
up, slave. Don't mouth off, slave. Get out of my face, slave. And you never get any closure with being able to like force choke him.
Right.
Or lightning him. I should be able to lightning him at some point. You do actually come back to him later. Spoilers. You do actually come back and see him later in the story when you pick up the 5th companion. But because he's training your companions, and you get to sort of choose companions. You come back to him a couple times as there's a couple new acolytes that are getting trained, and you end up with one of them eventually. But you never really get the closure to be able to like force lightning him in the face. Zash puts him in his place pretty solidly, but Zalek, yes, that's the companion that you end up getting eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got Assassins, Sorks, and level 80 on the PTS. I think we're mostly just going to talk about Sorks this week. Maybe we'll either touch on Assassins or come back to it next week, because I checked it out a little bit, but not a ton. And it's I'm not a main assassin. I play a lot of Sork though, and you play a lot of Sork, Seema. So I think we should spend most time on
not
that
as
tonight.
much as you do though, because you have that whole PvP thing going on with your Sork.
Yeah, I think your perspective on healing is going to be really interesting though, because you have healed on Sork Sage classes in the past, and I have not.
I have.
But let's talk a little bit about, and this is going to be light, but let's talk about the level 80 stuff. So here's if you go to the PTS, you jump on there and either create a character or copy a character over, which is new. You can now copy characters. You can do character transfer. You go to your account page. There's a button on the left for PTS character copy. So it's not character transfer, it's PTS character transfer. You can take any one of your characters, your existing characters, and copy it to the PTS. I copied a Sork over, and I created one from scratch also, both of them to check it out. If you click on the droid then that's on the fleet, when you get to the fleet, it will make you level 80. So what's your experience so far with being level 80, Seema? And talk about the gear too, because I think you're
first. I want to say, yeah, the first thing I did was I copied over my one of my Sorks, and the copy process went completely smoothly. And I wasn't looking forward to doing the way of going that they have had on the PTS, which was you just keep buying gear until you finally get to 306. This time they had just a vendor, and you could just buy your 328 gear directly, which is what I did. That's the gear I have on right now. And I mean, I was just so happy that all that worked, and that they had a little machine that gave you your opportunity to do your spec and gave you 1 million credits in case you needed it for anything. So that part was all really smooth. In terms of being level 80, it's interesting because we get access to, and we're going to talk about the abilities in a little bit. You get access to the level 80 abilities, and you see how those all are laid out. But scaling wise, we haven't really had much of an opportunity to look at it, because the scaling is really not in yet. They thought it was going to be in. They thought it was going to be out in the world and in heroic, daily areas and in flashpoints. They said it wouldn't be in ops, but it actually doesn't seem to be out in the world anywhere or in daily areas. Some people have found it in flashpoints, but I didn't do a flashpoint, so I can't say.
Right.
So the process of leveling to 80 was just, click on the guy, click on the little robot, the little droid, and he levels you to 80, gives you 1,000,000 credits, and then you go to another room and get your 328 gear. That actually worked pretty well. Why they don't just generate a character that's level 80 with the gear on, I don't know. I think they want some player agency. They want some ability to pick your stats, but this time you didn't have a lot of ability to do that because it's not moddable gear. It's just it's sort of like how the entry level 306 gear in this part of the game we're playing now, the current game, that you got the 306 gear, but it wasn't moddable until you started getting the sets.
Yeah,
it's like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, or the 270 or whatever. Yeah, or yeah, it's like the Andoranian gear.
Yeah, the Andoranian gear.
When you open up a crate and you get Andoranian like plates or whatever. So non-moddable, and it's even purple. So this isn't even. So I would imagine this indicates that it's going to go up above 328 by the end of the tier.
And my companions level affection level 50. In fact, all my companions are the same affection level they were in live. My keybinds are here. I feel super lucky. But yeah, so I went out in the world in Onderon and messed around up there and didn't have any trouble killing those the mobs that are out there in the world in Onderon with my level 50 companion. But I wasn't able to test any of the areas that were scalable because I would go there and the mobs would just be like, I went to the black hole and the mobs were level 50 and I was level 80, so it wasn't.
And they just die instantly, and they're not scaled.
I mean, I would put my dot on, and the initial hit of the dot would kill them.
one tick of the dot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My lightning bolt hits for between 10 and 17k. And the mobs on Balmora, when I went and checked, were like 900 health points.
That's a little overkill.
Yeah,
so like the level 80 part worked good. The scaling part, we'll have to wait for them to. Jackie did respond to people on the forums who were saying, doesn't look like scaling is actually here. She did respond saying that she's going to pass that on to the devs, and that, so they can say either fix it or say what's going on or whatever. It's like maybe they only intended it to be story mode flashpoints, and it was a misunderstanding when they said it would be out in the world too, but we'll see.
Right. It does make it a little bit difficult to test, and things, it even seemed a little bit weird on Onderon to me. Those did not, so they were level 75, and I was killing like the level 75 strongs that are right outside the town, and they did not seem like 5 levels below me with me wearing 328 gear level of
That's true.
mobs. Although
that's true.
Although I mean, it took me as long to kill them as I feel like it takes me now with my mercenary, or even longer. I was getting damaged more than I expected. In fact, when I did it without my companion, I had to like shield and heal myself because I was down to like 15-20% health. I did realize I was damaging myself, though, and I'll talk about why to some degree as well when we talk about the class. But yeah, so just to cap off on the level 80, yes, you can be level 80. They do a little bit more work to do to get the scaling in there, so we can really feel what it feels like. And I feel like the scaling it doesn't exist at the lower levels, and at the upper levels, it doesn't feel like how I would expect level 80 to feel on Onderon or on Mekshah. Because I went to Mekshah also. I went to Mekshah, and the first thing I did was I walked down from the flight point and went over to the Republic, the area where the Republic flight point is, and I shot the guards. I'm like, champions, guards, so they're only level 75, but they're champion mobs. And I had to book it on out of there, and they killed my companion, and I almost died. That did not feel like what I would expect it to feel like.
So that's what happened to me when the first thing I did is like before I leveled to 80, I went out to Onderon and killed some of those strongs right outside the city, and they killed my companion when I was level 75.
Yeah, Yeah, which they wouldn't today. When you're level 75 and you go to Onderon with a level 50 companion.
No,
So
they wouldn't.
that's what that's where I don't get how the scaling works.
Right.
The more fun part, the more interesting part is the class styles. So let's talk about the Sork in detail. As I said, we'll touch on the Assassin, but we can talk about the Sorks in detail. Do you want to? So I've got my combat styles up here for the Lightning, which I mostly focused on looking at Lightning. I did switch a character over to Madness, and it's less dramatic, some of the trade-offs and changes. Lightning has some interesting stuff. Do you want to start though with the heal, the healing and whatnot?
So what they did with the healing on the Sork, and I'll just talk about Sork and not try to say the Sage names for everything also, just for my own brain. But it's kind of interesting because they took one of the abilities, which I don't use that often, Dark Infusion, which you might use if you're a DPS Sork because it's one of the only heals you get. But they took that and you have a choice between 3 different passives very early on, like level 15. And one of the choices is Dark Infusion will do its normal amount of healing, but also put a hot on your target. Or Dark Infusion does its normal amount of healing and it will also hit an additional target. Or Dark Infusion does its normal amount of healing and it will make your next Dark Infusion instant. So those are your 3 choices, and those are kind of interesting choices. Yeah. It's like none of them is like you have to take this and you could never take the other 2. I think I personally, especially early on, and if you were leveling in a healing spec, I think I would love that hot with Dark Infusion, because Dark Infusion doesn't do that much healing. It won't save you if you're dying in a boss fight or something as a young Sork. But then they also took Dark Heal, is the spammable heal with a activation time, so it takes about 1.5 seconds. And there's 2 passives to choose from that could modify Dark Heal as well. One is increase the movement speed of your target for a short amount of time, which is some of these are like passives that we already have, and they're just placed in the tree in different places. And then one, which is kind of interesting, is it gives Dark Heal a 50% chance for Resurgence, which is our hot, to tick twice. So that would be, someone would have to number crunch that one to see if it was worth doing, but I thought it was an interesting idea.
There on that tier, so this is the level 20 tier. The third choice, which they've done across all of the DPS and I guess apparently the healing specs as well, is the third choice is Cloud Mine, which is a threat drop.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you use threat drop in your rotation as a healer?
No.
Okay. I do use it as a DPS.
Right.
And to have it as an optional thing, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
I think it's an opportunity for your raid leader to yell at you and say, if you're going to do that, then you better take Cloud Mind.
I guess. So that, and we'll get to my trade-offs in Lightning, which raises this question a couple more times.
I don't use Cloud Mine in my healing because avoiding threat as a healer is it's in your gameplay. Yeah. It's like you don't do this.
And you can do that from a DPS perspective too. And really coordinated teams can do that, can like trade the threat between tanks and DPS in interesting ways. But I think but also 9 times out of 10 as a healer, if you get threat, it's because nobody else has threat on that mob, and lowering your threat's not going to make any difference. Right, because healing threat pulls from everything in the room, where DPS threat only pulls from what you're shooting.
And if anybody has hit it, they're probably going to do more damage than get more threat than your heals will get threat, because you only get 50% threat from your heals.
The choices that they give you at level 15, I think, are a more interesting way to go about it. I like that approach to the kinds of trade-offs. here, let's take one of your core abilities and let's twist it a couple ways, and you get to pick the way that seems most interesting to you. Do you want to add a hot? Do you want it to jump to another person? Do you want it to make the next cast of this instant? That's okay. That's
well, I
interesting.
mean, they did that with Dark Infusion, which isn't really a core ability, but it makes Dark Infusion interesting.
Right. To make an ability interesting rather than to, which is what I'm sort of getting to, rather than like to trade off, hey, you can get a defensive cooldown or you can do more DPS. Well, that's a boring choice, because what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to like, for some fights, I'm going to have to take the defensive cooldown because there's like too much raid damage going out. And for other fights, because there's a high, a high timer, I'm not going to be able to, all DPS are going to want to take the high DPS.
Right.
Except when they can't, and then they're going to have to take the other thing.
Somebody's going to have to tell them to take the other one.
Right. And it's going to be boring because it's not like, and nobody wants to be like I'm the DPS that's kind of sturdy. Well, what is that? I know. So the healers will have to heal me slightly less than the other DPS. Won't that be nice? No, nobody's gonna notice. So what about
one?
Yeah, go up the tree a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I also had a note here that there is a pretty awesome passive for Innervate. Now, Innervate really is a core ability, and this passive that you can choose for Innervate spreads resurgence to other targets. So, like, the way I envision that is if you cast your hot on someone, and then, and this is actually very common, you put the hot on them and then you cast Innervate, that will spread the hot. That is awesome. I love that concept. Of course, we didn't get a chance to test it, and nobody's run numbers on it yet. But I think everyone's going to love that.
Yeah,
But one of the things that it's competing with is the raid buff. So
that's the other thing that they're doing across.
Healers are not going to want to do the raid. Well, we already don't really want to do the raid buff, but definitely. I mean, because we want to. I mean, everyone wants to use their stored up stuff for their own stuff and not for the raid buff, not just healers. But this is going to make it an interesting choice.
And it's going to be another one of those where someone has to take one for the team. And, your raid leader is going to have to yell at somebody to yell at that person that they have to take Cloud Mind, no matter what you want to be or what you want to feel like or what agency you want to have. You got to take Cloud Mind. And you got to take the raid buff. And you got to do this.
Don't you think, though, that what you want to do in that instance is learn to play in such a way that your raid leader isn't inspired to tell you to take Cloud Mine?
Yes, for the threat drop, yes, that's fine. But if that's still a weird. Unless so are they just gonna leave all threat the way it is now, and people just are gonna have to do less damage or something? Or
that's what we don't know.
We don't know.
That's what we don't know. One of the choices we have to make somewhere in the tree up here, I think I made a note of it, but we have to choose between something cool. Oh yeah, there's the reduced damage from AoE. You have to choose between that and force mobility. Well, force mobility is pretty core, but that's what allows healers to do Innervate while moving, and Innervate is a channeled heal. So aside from being sort of, I'm so used to doing that, it would be hard to learn to stand still while I'm doing that again. But so that thing about not being able to take the AoE damage reducer, I guess it depends on how they end up tweaking the amount of AoE damage,
I guess. And is there going to be so right, it would be very difficult for me not to take this, and there's choices like this.
I misread this. It reduces the damage taken from all periodic effects. That's different.
All dots.
That's actually fine. I don't need that. But a PvP person might.
Yeah, and PvP.
It kind of depends on the fight, yeah. But
so there may be fights where there's like a lot of dot damage, and then like everybody's got to take that, and then it's gonna break your flow, your gameplay, because now you're gonna have to take that and not be able to cast, innervate on while moving.
So a really successful, SWTOR healer then is going to be a better player than I am, because I get stuck in those kind of ruts. Like I get stuck knowing that I can move when I
get the muscle memory,
cast innervate, and I have to relearn if I can't move anymore. Whereas a more flexible, more skilled player is, they're going to go, okay, this time I'm doing this, not like last time.
Or just someone who spends more time practicing both ways, because they're
forced
well, to.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get to be more skilled.
Yeah. But I mean, but it's like if they like now take fights and design fights to sort of force you to take certain choices in the tree, then they're taking away the agency, and they're going to force you so this idea of play the way you want, to design your class how it feels most interesting to you, except when we force you to not. So I hope it doesn't end up that way too often.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Before we leave healing, though, because I know you're dying to, a couple of new interesting abilities.
I'm always dying because of the healing. Oh wait, what did I say?
It's called Reverse Corruption, and it removes the weary debuff if you God bubble yourself. So it's very niche, because God bubble is on a long cooldown, and when would you ever want to do that? That's the sorcerer spherical shield that makes you immune.
Yep.
And the weary debuff is the debuff you get if you cast your resource gaining ability without the proper procs in place. And then, so that's just kind of interesting. You could I can see that maybe coming into play in PvP, where everything's very bursty, and you run in there and you do a bunch of stuff and you get high stacks of weary debuff, and then you just God bubble yourself and they drop. And then everybody heals you while you're in your bubble. And then this other thing, this might be interesting too, it's called Sustaining Darkness. And the way that works, according to the tooltip, is you put your regular bubble on somebody, and when you do that, they have a number of stacks of a certain thing. And then when the bubble expires, however many stacks are left, they receive additional healing based on that number of stacks. And the way they lose stacks is if you direct heal them.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a little twist there.
Yeah.
You talked about this tier. There was a trade-off in here that I thought was interesting, and I saw some comments in the feedback threads. The Death's Embrace passive, where if a friendly player has Resurgence applied to them and they're killed during the duration of Resurgence, you get you're granted Death's Embrace, makes your next reanimation or Dark Infusion instant. The comment here was, so I would be like counting on failing at my job if I'm going to be like speccing into this. Oh, I let people die all the time, so I'm going to take this one because I'm a healer, just like lets people die. So I'm going to get a lot of use out of that one. That doesn't seem like I would hope my healer doesn't spec into that.
I kind of slid over that one because I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem that useful.
Right. If your healer's spec'd into that, watch out. Let's just put it that way.
Right. The other thing that's weird is this force mobility, the one where you can do innervate on the move, is a level 80 ability, which is, I forget what it is in live, but it's long before max level. So that's going to be weird. So when 7.0 comes, I will have to stand still for innervate until I get to level 80.
That true. Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. All the way up to level 80. So they did move it up there. Well, okay.
I mean, I don't think it's going to take us a long time to get to level 80.
No, it won't.
It's just an interesting thing.
What did you think of the level 70 tier of trade-offs? It's exactly the same for Lightning and Madness as well, which is this one sort of grates on me a little bit. It's the choice between Extrication, which is a cool utility,
Oh yeah,
go and yank somebody, versus your Force Barrier, which is your God Bubble, versus something that nobody ever uses, which was your level 75 new ability, Volt Rush. Nobody uses that, so ignore that one. But Extrication versus Force Bubble.
Right. So, yeah, I did have this one in my notes too. I don't like that choice, but honestly, I don't use Force Bubble hardly ever. Force Barrier. This is the immunity bubble. So I do occasionally, and the reason I don't use it more often is just because I don't think of it, because it's not in my immediate bag of tricks. But I do know that our DPS orcs do use it, and whenever I see it, I'm always appreciative as a healer, and I always like that that's an opportunity for me to heal them back up to full. But for me, I probably would take Extrication. I mean, I will kind of miss Volt Rush, because running around in the world, even at a low level, to have an instant cast thing that will do anything. Yeah.
I didn't think about that for a healer.
But nothing compared to, I mean, I wouldn't take it over Extricate, no way.
Even so though, for PvE group content, both Force Barrier and Extrication are probably a little bit situational, aren't they? I mean, do you use either of those very much?
No. The point for me of Extrication would be messing around.
Yeah. Right.
But you're right.
Right. As we wanted for.
Yeah.
As an
ability, really, if you're the only one that's useful is the God Bubble.
Yeah. In PvP, both of these are used. Extrication is used mostly in Hutball, and then Force Barrier is used constantly in PvP. So this is a little bit frustrating, because you kind of have to take Force Barrier. You'd be crazy not to take Force Barrier, which means, I guess Extrication goes away, which is a little sad for PvPers, because it's an interesting utility that makes, especially Hutball, but makes a few different situations interesting. So, I mean, I guess they're trying to make some trade-offs. I prefer this level 15 trade-off, which is, here's 3 passives which can change the way you play. I much prefer that kind of trade-off to the, hey, here's 2 cool things that you used to have. You only get to pick one.
But one thing I do like about this, and I realize it doesn't solve this problem that you just elucidated, but to change one of these is super easy. You just click on it.
True.
You can't be in combat, so you probably can't be in the instanced anything. You'd have to step outside and do it. But at least you don't have to reset the whole thing and then click them all again.
So
just to change one ability.
What did Chris say about this? I'm just wondering if, before the Hutball match starts, if you could change to a loadout that has Extrication. If you can change loadouts in the waiting area before the PvP match starts, then great. Otherwise,
I forget what he said about that.
Otherwise, if you have to do it before you load in, then
because you don't know, right?
You don't
until
know.
You're in the waiting. Yeah,
you don't know until you get in there.
I hope you should be able to change in the waiting area.
Right, I would hope so as well.
If you ask me, they didn't ask me, but if they were to ask me, that's what I would say.
I think he alluded to that because that could be a factor in Arena in the 4v4 as well. Depending on the composition of the team that you're fighting against, you might have a different loadout that you would want to use, which would make sense, and it would make sense to allow people to do that in that waiting area ahead of the match. So that's some feedback we should provide once we confirm the way that works. All right, let's take a little bit of a go ahead.
I was just gonna say my Sork is in a great place on the PTS because she has all the abilities. Like even the ones I haven't picked.
Oh, so now let's talk about some of the bugs, I guess.
Yeah, I said that was my segue, I guess.
It's especially if you start a character from scratch and then use the level 80 bot and level it up, it works correctly. If you copy a character over, it seems to like get all the abilities, and if you make a choice, like if I choose Extrication instead of Volt Rush, I still have Volt Rush. I don't know why. It should take Volt Rush away, and it's not right now. That's just a bug. It's not supposed to work that way, but that seems weird. That's still going on. When I copied my character over, I had the stuff on my bars, and then I had like extra copies of half of the abilities spread around the bars as well.
That too.
So I
and
don't
then
know why that happened.
And when I tried to create a character from scratch, and I only tried this once, probably if I tried it again it would work, but I didn't get anything in the screen at all. No abilities, no combat styles, no disciplines, just blank. No icons. Yeah.
And we still don't have the ability to pick a second combat style, which is I was hoping that we would have by this point. And we don't have loadouts. And we're not going to get into too much, but keep saying TikTok, winter is coming. Let's get
yes, it is.
Let's take a look. So of this tree, there are, as you can see here, like level 70 is the exact same trade-offs that we had for the healer spec, and some of the same kind of trade-off here at level 80. If I can cast Thundering Blast while on the move, which I do want to be able to do, and I won't be able to do that if I have to take reducing damage from periodic effects. The place where things get a little weird that I don't like as much here in the lightning choices and the trade-offs is like this level 35 one, and with this is happening all over the place as well, which is that raid buff versus doing damage consistently. Even the raid buffs, it's a 10 second buff. It's 10% to increasing your mastery or your endurance by 10% for 10 seconds that you can use like once a fight, versus I get to be a better DPS all the time, constantly throughout the whole fight. You're gonna force somebody to take that in those, especially in those tight groups that are doing harder content. You're gonna force somebody to take that, and they're just gonna have to take one for the team and be that, and they're gonna feel less powerful. Now, it's not really changing their rotation, so maybe you're not actually gonna notice it that much. So you're just like here, you're gonna just have less crits. So fine, but it's like a choice that just sort of feels bad, that you're just gonna have to do that, and you can't be as good as you can be. And for the teams that do run meters, and they're even gonna be bolstering what happens in the combat log, for the teams that run meters, somebody's gonna have to take one for the team and look like they're doing less work than other people. But you're just gonna have to know. But nobody does that. Nobody knows, and that's not the way DPS works. If you're not top of the meters, no matter how much utility you were bringing to the team, you just don't feel as good. The other stuff in here that just is weird to me is at level 30 and 50 and 60 and 80, you have a choice between something that either makes you more mobile or do more damage versus a defensive. So your defensives start to go away, and you have to change between, you have to pick between being squishy versus doing what you're made to do, which is do damage. I don't know. I guess this is somewhat interesting for people that PvP quite a bit, because you're gonna have to make that a conscious choice. Are you going to do more damage and become a truly glass cannon? Or are you going to give yourself a little bit more of a defensive, damage reduction with your Thundering Blast? Like, because here, you either you pick a passive that makes your Thundering Blast immobilize targets. You pick make a Thundering Blast do extra damage to stun targets, or Thundering Blast gives you a damage reduction. So fine, I get it, and it's kind of a choice that matters. It's just not the kind of interesting choices which we were finding where it changes the way you work. You know, you like spread a dot or add a dot to an ability bounces to another character. Like this Forbidden Knowledge crits with Chain Lightning build stacks, which reduces the cooldown of another ability. The one that I found that was broken for me is where is it? Overload Strike. So at level 20, you can pick if you want. This is where you can pick your threat drop, Cloud Mind. You can pick Finish Them, which is when shock deals bonus damage, returns force when hitting targets affected by slows. One can occur once every 8 seconds. Or you pick Overload Strike. So Overloaded Strike replaces Lightning Strike. So Lightning Strike is what you get at the low level. Overload Strike replaces Lightning Strike and hits up to one additional target within 10 meters, dealing Lightning Strike's damage to both targets. Interesting, fun, cool. Replaces Lightning Strike. However, when you get to level 55, you get Lightning Bolt, which replaces Lightning Strike. So I don't get what this is here. This is either weird or broken. I ended up with then Lightning Bolt and Lightning Strike. Both of them do the same amount of base damage, except the Overloaded Strike, which replaces Lightning Strike, does the extra bonus damage to another target. So why do I have what is then level 55 does nothing for me? So I didn't understand what was going on here. If I'm supposed to still have both of those, or if my Lightning Bolt is supposed to be bolstered by this Overloaded Strike as a passive. So that was weird. The other bug, and here I wanted it. Well, two bugs, two fun bugs. First was the first bug that I put on Twitter, and we have here in our thumbnail, is for some reason Sorks can get stuck in this animated state. I guess Seema said you can't see it, right?
No.
So it's me putting up my hand and having that little lightning animation in my hand, and I can like walk all the way around the fleet, and I run around with this lightning in my hand, and I've got this look on my face like, look at my lightning. Look into my hand, my head. Can I offer you some lightning in these trying times? I put a bunch of pictures of this all over the place. That was hilarious. I wouldn't mind if that stayed permanently. That's fine. That's fine with me. The second bug, which I found was kind of hilarious, is with this Overloaded Strike. It does do the bonus damage. If you're fighting two mobs and they're close together and you're far away, it will jump to the second mob. If you're closer than the second mob, it does the bonus damage to you. So you see, I'm like killing myself here. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? So each of these Overloaded Strikes is bouncing back to me. So when I was fighting the mobs on Onderon and I was doing this Overloaded Strike, I'm like, wow, they're doing a lot of damage to me. No, it was me punching myself in the face. So I don't know I think that's a bug. I don't think that's supposed to be doing damage to you. So I filed that off as a bug, which I didn't like. But see here, I can do it shut off. I can do the Lightning Bolt, which does the same amount of damage than the Lightning Strike, than the Overloaded Strike, but it doesn't do the second hit of the Overloaded Strike. The other thing I found weird. Here, let me see if I can get it to happen. When Crushing Darkness procs and I cast Crushing Darkness ticks are these lightning bolts from the sky. Is it supposed to be like that? I don't think so. Summons a dark cloud of energy to crush the target, instantly doing... Either that's an animation bug or some new animation for Crushing Darkness. Can chat room... no, that doesn't happen now. I would have noticed that. Look at that. It's cool. But that's not supposed to be happening like that. I don't know what's good. I would be fine with that staying there. But I think that's a weird animation bug. So I think I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, but I think there's quite a few bugs with the level 80 stuff, with stuff in the trees, with these animations. We know the user interface isn't done. Because I hit K here and it still says work in progress, and the text is still getting worked out. I check my gear and tacticals. Well, I have Stormwatch as the tactical.
I mean, maybe the reason this is buggy
is that what
that
Stormwatch does? Takes target damage from crushing darkness. A lightning bolt is called down upon the target. Oh no, I guess it is. It's from. So you're right, Tabby. So that one, I guess, the lightning from the sky for crushing darkness is not a bug. That's a Stormwatch animation that I apparently just ignored in the past. It's cool. So great. I get to keep that one. But
maybe the reason that stuff is buggy is that they have developed a bunch of stuff, but for the PTS they have to take things out, so they will only have access to certain things.
That's a good point. So
maybe
there might be a DevOps process where they're merging. They've got a development branch where all of this stuff is in some awesome non-work in progress, close to completed state, but they're taking chunks of it and putting it on the DPS for testing. They can't just take the whole 7.0 build because they don't want to bring in the story content. They don't want to, they don't want to spoil that kind of stuff. They probably don't want the full 7.0 build ever on the PTS because the data miners will just take it apart and expose all of the story content. So that's a really good point. Maybe it's just a tough job to take out the chunks that they're trying to bring over to the PTS to show off. And that's why things seem sort of incomplete. Maybe the actual 7.0 build is much more complete and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
That's our story, and we're sticking to it. But I think, it's good. Still good to see the stuff on the PTS. This was a good opportunity to see more of the combat styles. It's not the combat style we're looking for. These are not the combat styles you're looking for. Go about your business. What is the combat style we're looking for, Seema?
Well,
mercenary.
I mean,
where are they? Where's the mercenaries?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you torturing us this way?
I was thinking you meant the getting the second one.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I mean, we want to see the second ones, and we want to see the loadouts. But man, the mercenaries, Merc.
So, I'm kind of nervous now. I know people told us, just wait until mercenary. But now that I see kind of their thought process, I definitely can see responsive safeguards being on a choice with something that I use a lot. So,
wow, you know what it's going to be though. It's going to be responsive safeguards versus rocket out. Woohoo! Responsive safeguards all the way.
I just hope it's not. Oh my gosh, someone's gonna have to help me with. I forget what the ability is called, but it was the one that heals you when you get down below 30%. Because
adrenaline rush. Yeah.
I used that like 6 times tonight, and responsive safeguards.
No, adrenaline rush seems like one of those defensives that they're probably going to make you trade off against a passive, which increases your damage. The responsive safeguards and our second rocket out was one of those level 75 abilities, which is what Bolt Rush was for this class. And then responsive safeguards again, fell into that force barrier tier. I very much bet the level 70 choice is going to be between rocket out and responsive safeguards. It better not be. Well, fine. It can maybe. Maybe one choice will be. We're going to take away one of your rocket outs.
One choice will be both rocket outs.
One choice will be both rocket outs. Because remember, our level 75 awesome ability that we got when Sorks got Volt Rush is we got a second charge of rocket out. That's what we got. So we're waiting with bated breath. That will be coming hopefully before long. Again, TikTok, we want to see this stuff and get to it. We'll save Assassin for next week and throw our comments in there. I think there was more sort of confusion. It wasn't a lot of angst in the threads on Sork, but a little more of questions of why some of this stuff works this way. A little bit less of that on Assassin. So we can talk about a little bit of that next week. But there's the PTS, and there's what we got. We've got level 80. We've got 328 gear. Good to see this stuff going on. And
come on over. It's not hard. You just get your gear from a vendor and copy your character over.
Start from scratch, or copy a character over, and you're there. You're golden. So fun times. Join us on the PTS. We will see you. Also, join us on Starforge. So I think we're ready now to kick this astromech of ours. 397. What's happened? 397. That means we've got Mac. 2 more, 398 and then 399, and then there's this episode 400 that people have been telling us is kind of a big deal. I don't know. We don't have any plans yet, but we do have people making plans on our behalf. We're going to have to get on top of that.
I don't know if that's true.
Oh no, B. Kavanaugh is I think is going to take it out of our hands unless we get our axing gear. So we've got that to look forward to. Otherwise, 397 will be out there. If you want to follow us, when this podcast goes live, when it hits the feeds, or when we figure out what's going to happen for episode 400, you can follow me on Twitter @MaxTheGray. If you know anybody that should be playing with us or wants more information about our guild, tell them to come find us at aie-guild.org. That's where we've got our guild Discord link in the upper right. You can get on our guild Discord. We've got whole bunch of things going on all week. We've got guilds on the Imperial and the Republic side. You can jump in there and you can ask us for a guild invite on Starforge. We would love to have you. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.